God says, something about the person your heart keeps returning to is about to come into the light, and it may completely change the way you understand their recent silence. A medical report connected to your soulmate is on its way, but the most surprising part is not simply what may be written on those pages. It is the truth surrounding everything they have been carrying quietly while trying to appear completely normal. There were moments when they wanted to tell you that something felt different. There were nights when they stared at their phone, almost reaching out to you, almost admitting that they had been overwhelmed, exhausted, and emotionally drained in ways they could not explain. But every time they came close, something stopped them. They did not want you to worry. They did not want sympathy. Most of all, they were afraid that once you knew what they were going through, you might begin seeing them differently. But now, something has happened that they can no longer keep hidden. Don't skip, because the next detail changes the meaning of their distance completely. What looked like coldness may never have been coldness. What felt like rejection may never have been rejection. Behind their silence was a private struggle, and the report they have been waiting for could finally give a name to what they have been experiencing. But there is another layer to this story, because before that report even arrived, someone close to them noticed something unusual. A change in their energy. A change in their routine. A moment when they suddenly became quiet after your name was mentioned. And what your soulmate admitted afterward was something no one expected to hear. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you inside the confession they have been holding back. Your soulmate has been trying to understand why, during one of the most uncertain periods of their life, their thoughts keep returning to you. Not occasionally. Not accidentally. Again and again. When they felt emotionally exhausted, they remembered your voice. When they wondered who would truly understand them without judging them, they thought about you. And when they were asked one simple question, if you could speak openly to one person right now, who would it be? Your name was the first name that entered their mind. That realization shook them because they had spent so much time convincing themselves that they could keep their feelings under control. They believed distance would make everything easier. They believed silence would slowly weaken the connection. Instead, the opposite happened. The more vulnerable they felt, the clearer their feelings became. Yet there is something you need to understand. A medical report cannot tell anyone what the future holds, and no one should assume a diagnosis before a qualified professional explains the results. But emotionally, this waiting period has already revealed something powerful. Your soulmate has discovered who they instinctively want beside them when life becomes uncertain. And that person may be you. They have replayed conversations you probably forgot. They remember small moments when you showed kindness without realizing how deeply it affected them. One particular memory keeps returning. The moment you made them feel seen when they were quietly struggling. You thought it was ordinary. To them, it was unforgettable. And now that memory is connected to a decision they are considering, a decision that could finally break the silence between you. My beloved child, the biggest revelation is not hidden inside a laboratory result. It is hidden inside what this experience has forced your soulmate to admit to themselves. They are tired of pretending certain feelings do not exist. They are tired of acting unaffected when your absence affects them more than they want anyone to know. And there may soon come a moment when they decide that uncertainty has already stolen enough time. Something changed inside them while they were waiting for answers. They began asking themselves questions they had avoided for far too long. Why did I push away someone who genuinely mattered to me? Why did I hide what I felt? Why did I assume there would always be another opportunity to speak? Those questions opened a door they can no longer easily close. Don't skip what comes next, because there is one detail they have not told anyone yet. Before seeking answers about what they had been experiencing, your soulmate made a private promise to themselves. Once they understood what was happening, they would stop postponing one important conversation. That conversation involves you. They have imagined how it might begin, what they would say first, and whether you would still be willing to hear them. But there is one sentence they are most afraid to say, because once those words leave their mouth, everything between you could change. It is not simply, "I missed you." It goes deeper than that. They want to explain why they disappeared emotionally, why their behavior became confusing, and why your name remained in their heart through a period when almost everything else felt uncertain. And just when you think you understand where this is going, another truth is about to surface, because someone who knows your soulmate closely has already discovered what they were trying to hide, and the question that person asked them forced an answer that could change this entire story. My beloved child, the question that person asked your soulmate was so simple that no one expected it to break through every wall they had built. If everything in your life suddenly became uncertain, who is the one person you would regret never telling the truth to? Your soulmate did not answer immediately. They looked away. Their expression changed. For several seconds, there was complete silence, because one name had already appeared in their mind before the question was even finished: yours. And what happened next revealed something far deeper than anyone around them realized. They admitted that while waiting for clarity about their health, they had begun thinking differently about time, relationships, and all the words they had kept trapped inside. Don't skip, because this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The medical report itself still needs to be interpreted by a qualified medical professional, and no one can truthfully predict what it will say before those results are properly explained. But the waiting has already exposed something your soulmate can no longer deny: they have been carrying enormous emotional pressure in silence. They may have been dealing with exhaustion, stress, sleepless nights, or symptoms they did not fully understand, but instead of telling you, they withdrew. That distance confused you. Perhaps you wondered whether they had stopped caring. Perhaps their silence made you question everything you once felt between you. But inside their private world, something completely different was happening. They were afraid that reaching out while feeling vulnerable would make them appear weak. They kept telling themselves, I'll speak when I know more. I'll explain when I understand what is happening. Yet every day they waited, the unfinished conversation with you became heavier. Then something happened. One evening, they opened an old conversation, photograph, or memory connected to you. They stared at it longer than they intended. And suddenly, one particular moment came rushing back, a moment when you treated them with genuine care without asking for anything in return. That memory broke something open inside them. For the first time, they realized they were not only afraid of uncertain medical answers. They were afraid of losing the chance to tell you what you had actually meant to them all along. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and the next revelation explains why their behavior around you may have felt so contradictory. Your soulmate tried more than once to convince themselves that their feelings were temporary. They tried distracting themselves. They tried staying busy. They may even have acted distant because distance seemed easier than vulnerability. But when life forced them into a period of uncertainty, all those distractions stopped working. The truth became impossible to avoid. When they imagined needing someone beside them during a difficult conversation, they pictured you. When they imagined receiving reassuring news, you were the person they wanted to tell. When they imagined hearing something that required further tests or treatment, again, your presence entered their mind. That realization frightened them because it meant their connection to you had survived everything they had done to suppress it. But there is another detail they have hidden. Before this medical situation became serious enough for them to seek professional answers, there had been a moment when they almost contacted you. They typed something. They stared at the screen. Their finger hovered over send. Then they erased it. What they had written was not dramatic. It was something far more vulnerable. They wanted to ask whether you would still answer if they truly needed someone. They could not send it because they were terrified of discovering that too much time had passed. And now that unsent message has become one of their biggest regrets. Because someone close to them has finally told them something they desperately needed to hear. You cannot expect someone to understand your silence if you never tell them what the silence meant. Those words stayed with them. Suddenly, your soulmate began seeing the situation differently. Maybe you were never supposed to magically understand why they pulled away. Maybe you were waiting for honesty while they were waiting for the perfect moment. And now they are realizing that the perfect moment may never exist. There is only the choice to speak or remain silent. But what they are preparing to reveal goes beyond their health concerns. They want to tell you about the exact moment they realized their feelings for you were deeper than they had admitted. And surprisingly, that moment happened long before this medical report was ever ordered. Something extraordinary happened inside your soulmate when they finally traced everything back to the beginning. They remembered a moment involving you that seemed insignificant at the time, but now they understand it differently. Maybe it was the way you listened when everyone else rushed them. Maybe it was something compassionate you said when they were struggling privately. Maybe it was simply the feeling of being able to breathe around you without pretending. Whatever that moment was, it planted something they tried for a long time to ignore. And now, while waiting for medical answers, that memory has returned with incredible clarity. Don't skip, because the final detail changes what comes next. Your soulmate has begun preparing themselves for 2 conversations. One with a medical professional about what their report actually means, and another with you about what their heart has been refusing to say. These are 2 completely different conversations, and they know they cannot confuse fear with fact. Whatever the report shows must be handled responsibly, with proper medical guidance. But the emotional truth does not require a laboratory result. Uncertainty has made them realize how much unfinished truth exists between you. They do not want another month of wondering. Another night of typing words and deleting them. Another moment of pretending your name means nothing when it clearly awakens something inside them. And there is one sentence they have rehearsed privately, a sentence they still do not know whether they will have the courage to say when the opportunity finally comes. I pushed you away when what I really wanted was for you to come closer. But even that is not the deepest confession. There is something else behind it, something connected to why they disappeared at the exact moment your connection seemed strongest. You may have believed they lost interest. You may have thought another person came between you. You may even have blamed yourself. But according to what they have finally begun admitting, none of those explanations tells the complete story. They pulled away because becoming emotionally attached to you awakened a fear they had carried long before they met you. And now, after everything that has happened, they are preparing to reveal exactly what that fear was. And why the medical report arriving may become the moment that finally forces them to stop running from the conversation they should have had with you long ago. My beloved child, the fear they have been hiding was never simply the fear of losing you, it was the fear of finally having something real enough to lose. That is the truth they could not admit when your connection became stronger. During one particularly emotional night, they imagined receiving the call or appointment that would finally explain their results. And immediately afterward, they imagined calling you. Not everyone else. You. That realization stopped them completely. They asked themselves, why, after everything, is this still the person I want to hear my voice? And the answer frightened them because it was painfully simple. Somewhere beneath all the distance, you still feel emotionally significant to them. But there is another revelation, and this one goes back further than you may expect. Your soulmate's fear did not begin with you. Long before your connection became complicated, they may have learned to associate deep attachment with disappointment, abandonment, or emotional uncertainty. So when you entered their life and made them feel something unusually genuine, an old defense awakened. Part of them wanted to move closer. Another part whispered, "Be careful. If this becomes important, it can hurt you." That inner conflict explains why their actions may have seemed impossible to understand. One day they seemed completely drawn toward you, another day they became distant. One moment they almost revealed everything, the next they disappeared behind silence. You may have interpreted that inconsistency as a lack of feeling, but they are beginning to understand that it came from an inability to handle the intensity of what they felt. And then came the health uncertainty. Suddenly, the things they had been postponing no longer felt small. They began asking themselves what would happen if they kept waiting for the perfect day to become honest. What if another year passed? What if you moved forward believing they never cared? What if their silence became the final version of the story you remembered? Something about that possibility disturbed them deeply. So they returned to the unsent message they had written before. This time, they did not immediately delete it. They read it again. Then they added another sentence. And that sentence revealed the emotional truth they had spent so long hiding. There is something about why I disappeared that you deserve to know. Something huge is waiting for you, because behind those words is a revelation even the person closest to them did not fully understand. Their withdrawal happened shortly after a specific moment between you, one moment when they suddenly realized you were no longer just someone they enjoyed talking to. You had become someone whose absence could genuinely affect them. That realization terrified them. Instead of moving toward what they wanted, they stepped backward. But now they understand the cost of that decision, because stepping backward did not erase the feelings. It only created questions neither of you ever answered. And now comes the detail that may change the entire direction of what happens next. Your soulmate is no longer thinking only about whether they should speak to you. They are thinking about exactly how to tell you the truth without making promises they cannot guarantee. They know they cannot claim certainty about their health before receiving proper medical guidance. They know a report can contain complicated information that requires professional interpretation. But they also know they do not need medical certainty to become emotionally honest. Those are separate truths, and for the first time, they are beginning to understand the difference. Don't skip, because what they are considering saying next is something they once believed they would never have the courage to admit. They want to tell you, when I became distant, I hoped the feelings would disappear. They didn't. Imagine the weight behind that sentence. All this time, you may have been trying to understand why someone who once seemed so connected suddenly changed. Meanwhile, they were fighting an internal battle they never allowed you to see. And now one question keeps returning to them: if they reach out, will you still listen? They do not know the answer.